Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. Today I'm going to be discussing an architect that designed numerous movie theaters across the United States and some of the Washington, D.C. area. I used to work in a movie theater several years ago and was looking at images on the internet of various movie houses, especially the single ones, the old single ones, and I found this article about John Eberson. And here's a picture of him, John Adolph Emil Eberson, taken about 1912, and a little information on him. He was born 1875, died 1954, European-born American architect, best known for development and promotion of movie palace designs in the atmospheric theater style. Was born in Czernowitz, Bukovina, Austria-Hungary. Today it's called the Ukraine. On January 2nd, 1875, the son of Siegfried and Laura Schmidt Eberson. Attended high school in Dresden, Saxony, and started electrical engineering at the University of Vienna. After completing his studies in 1896, he joined the 14th Hussaren Regiment of the Austrian Army. He immigrated to the United States in 1901, stayed on the ship that left Bremerhaven. He arrived in New York City and traveled to settle in St. Louis. First work there was with an electrical contracting company. A few years later, he affiliated himself with Johnson Realty and Construction Company, a theater architecture and construction company. Him and Johnson traveled around the eastern part of America promoting opera houses in small towns. Once a town was persuaded to build an opera house, Eberson would design it and Johnson would build it. He was married to Beatrice Lamb, 1885 to 1954. That's when she was born and died. He married her in 1903. She immigrated from Great Britain and was an interior decorator. They had 3 children, Drew, Laura Mary, and Elsa. 1904, they moved to Hamilton, Ohio. There, his first theater was located at the Hamilton Jewel. The 350-seat Jewel was constructed in an existing pre-Civil War building. While in Hamilton, Eberson designed local buildings and continued his opera house design work. They moved to Chicago in 1910. In Chicago, he was able to increase his theater architectural commissions. An early client with Karl Hobelitzel's Interstate Amusement Company. The first 2 theaters designed for Hobelitzel were the Fort Worth Magic, Fort Worth, Texas, 1911, and the Austin Majestic, Austin, Texas, 1915. Neither was groundbreaking in design, and neither was in the atmospheric style. He first experimented with atmospheric design at the Dallas Majestic, 1921, the Indiana Theater in Terre Haute, 1922, the Orpheum Theater in Wichita, Kansas, 1922. It was in the design of the Houston Majestic, 1923, that Eberson created his first atmospheric theater. In 1926, he moved to New York City and opened an office at Rodin Studios. In July 1929, he made the decision to close the Chicago office and consolidate all of his design work to New York. About the same time, he formally brought his son, Drew Eberson, 1904 to 1989, into the business. Although Drew had helped before on many sites, Drew became his partner and carried on the business after his father's death. Eberson attained national and even international acclaim for his atmospheric theaters, many of them executed in exotic revival styles, including Italian Renaissance, Spanish Revival, and Moorish Revival, and others. So basically, let's see, here's a picture of his first atmospheric theater in Houston, Texas. And it's been torn down since then. And theaters he designed: 1905 Hamilton, Ohio Jewel Theater, 1906 Grand Theater in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1915 the Hippodrome Theater in Terre Haute, Indiana, 1915 the Paramount Theater in Austin, Texas, 1920 the Hippodrome Theater in Oklahoma. It burned down in 1934. 1921 the Majestic Theater in Dallas, Texas, 1922 the Indiana Theater in Terre Haute, Indiana, 1922 the Orpheum in Wichita, Kansas, 1923 the Majestic Theater in Houston, Texas. That was his first fully atmospheric theater. 1924 Palace Theater in Gary, Indiana. 1924 Orpheum Theater in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 1926 the Palace Theater in Canton, Ohio. Also 1926 the Olympia Theater, Miami, Florida. Same year Tampa Theater in Tampa, Florida, listed on National Register of Historic Places, 1978. 1927, Lowe's Theater, Richmond, Virginia. It's now Richmond Center Stage. Riviera Theater in Omaha, Nebraska, now restored and renamed the Rose Theater. State Theater in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Capitol Theater in Flint, Michigan. That was all 1927. Now 1928, New Regal Theater, formerly Avalon Theater in Chicago, Illinois. Embassy Theater in Fort Wayne, Indiana, also on the National Register of Historic Places. And that happened in 1975. The Louisville Palace, Louisville, Kentucky. Uptown Theater, Kansas City, Missouri. The Palace Theater, Marion, Ohio. In 1929, the theaters were Lowe's Theater in Akron, Ohio. Lowe's Paradise Theater in the Bronx, New York. Lowe's Valencia Theater, Queens, New York. Paramount Theater, Anderson, Indiana. State Theater, Sydney, with Henry Eli White. Majestic Theater, San Antonio, Texas. Those are 1929 for the Lowe's Theater in Akron, all the way to Majestic Theater, San Antonio, Texas, 1929. 1931, Warner Theater in Morgantown, West Virginia. Midwest Theater, his last atmospheric design, 1,700 seats, in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, torn down in 1975. The Palace Theater in Albany, New York. The Grand Rex, Paris, France. And that was 1932. 1936, the Dixie's Theater in Stanton, Virginia. In 1937, the Colony Theater, Shaker Heights, Ohio. First opened December 28, 1937. It has been renovated. It is now known as the Shaker Square Cinemas. 1938, Lakewood Theater, Dallas, Texas. Bethesda Theater, Bethesda, Maryland, listed on the National Register of Historic Places. I think I have been into that theater, actually. I believe they made it into what you call cinema draft house. I believe I watched a Redskins game there. If not, I may be wrong about that, but there was a theater there that I did go to. The Silver Theater in Silver Spring, Maryland. The Shines Auburn Theater, Auburn, New York. 1940, the Oswego Theater in Oswego, New York, listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Norwalk Theater in Norwalk, Ohio, in 1941. 1946, the Woodlawn Theater, San Antonio, Texas. And the 1950, the Teatro Junin, Caracas, Venezuela. Other theaters were designed in Mexico City, Mexico, Perth, Sydney, and Melbourne, Australia. A significant number of his estimated 500 buildings, including an estimated 100 atmospheric theaters, may, however, have been destroyed as redevelopment and changing taste came to consider the style dated. Here's some picture of some of the theaters that he designed. The Tampa Theater in Tampa, Florida. This is the Louisville Palace in Louisville, Kentucky, and Indiana Theater in Terre Haute, Indiana. And that was what information I was able to get on John Eberson. I thought it was kind of interesting. He designed all these various movie theaters, and like I was saying before, when I read that most of them are no longer standing, but there are still a few around. Some of them are empty buildings right now, still standing. There are a few that have been put on the National Historic Register and have been renovated, and some are in use as movie theaters and as playhouses and other things like that. And that being said, as always, thanks for watching.